Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. So I just finished yesterday. I finished the very last video for the coverage of all things Friday the 13th. So thanks again. There's been a lot of people. The last few weeks, it's been really great. A lot of people have been commenting on all of the videos I've been posting, especially the Friday the 13th videos. I really appreciate that people are taking the time, that they have an interest in this stuff that I really love, and it's been great. Cool, some cool dialogue back and forth. A couple of folks who have been commenting on the videos have made some movie recommendations for me or to me about some films I haven't heard, and that's just awesome. And I really appreciate the support. I've had some new subscribers, and yeah, really great. So I finally finished the last video tied to the Friday 13th franchise. It's a documentary. I uploaded it yesterday, I believe. It's called His Name is Jason. And it's basically a documentary about the Friday 13th series. And the documentary itself, again, I've said before, is not very good. It's kind of terrible. But the special features of this DVD that I got quite a few years ago is one of my favorites. It's got interviews with every actor who has played Jason Voorhees over the years. It's really cool. It's about an hour, but it's a lot of in-depth information. It's pretty candid. It's not like, edited too much. They're all of the actors are incredibly honest. Ted White and Kane Hodder. It's really great. And I've watched that so many times. So I did a video on that documentary. So check that out. And again, thanks for everyone who's been supporting. This channel continues to support, and new subscribers, and especially all the folks who have been commenting on the videos. I really appreciate that. So today's show is on a kind of a new batch of movies that I bought, and I kind of regret buying them, but then I don't. It's like, I don't know. Mainly, it's because I feel like I've officially run out of storage space. I have to get some new shelving set up for my movie collection. It's literally out of control now. I've run out of room. So, and I got pretty good at prioritizing when I buy movies, and I still am. But when I go to Bull Moose, which is my favorite place to go, I try to only buy Blu-rays, and I try to only buy, the deep cuts in the exploitation world. Other than that, I don't buy DVD. I definitely don't buy DVDs there anymore, and I don't usually buy too many kind of standard quote unquote Hollywood movies because I have so many of those kinds of movies anyway. The only exception that I make is when I go to Goodwill, and I still buy DVDs there and Blu-rays. But I went to Goodwill yesterday in Belfast. I hadn't been to the Goodwill in Belfast in a really long time. It can be decent. The best one is the one in Rockland. They have a really great, awesome movie selection, and a lot of times great CDs for a buck or two. I've gotten some really good movies there. I've gotten some really good albums there, CDs. So Goodwill is like slim pickings in Belfast, but I figure why not? So yesterday, just kind of took the day off and had a pretty chill day yesterday. So I went up to the Belfast Goodwill, and it was I found a lot of movies. So today's show, I don't know if I'm gonna do every movie that I bought, but we'll see. I'm gonna talk about some of the movies I bought today at Goodwill. Pardon me. So I got some DVDs, and then I got some a couple of Blu-rays. The first movie in today's show, I'm going to talk about this movie. I got this movie which I hadn't seen in forever. Kiss the Girls with Morgan Freeman, the serial killer movie. I also got the Power Rangers live action movie on DVD. Pretty funny. And then I also got Ready Player One, the Steven Spielberg sci-fi movie based on the famous book. I've only seen this movie once. And then the other movie I got, which is over there, I started watching it last night, is Copland, starring Robert De Niro and Ray Liotta. Harvey Keitel. It's like a little kind of drama cop drama, organized crime kind of thriller movie. I had I've had that movie on DVD for a while, and then I saw it at Goodwill on Blu-ray. It was really cheap, so I bought it. So I'm going to talk about some of these movies, but mainly I'm going to talk about Kiss the Girls. Kiss the Girls is a movie I haven't seen in years, and I was kind of like, oh man, I haven't seen this movie in forever, and it's hard to believe this came out in 1997. Pure, 90s. Um, well, I have to say it's pretty dated. It's pretty dated. I have not seen this movie in a long time. It's essentially a movie about a serial killer. Morgan Freeman, Ashley Judd. This movie's okay. It's I got this on DVD, and I kind of like, to be all honest, like I watched some of these movies last night, and I was kind of enjoying it, but then I was like, oh, I just bought more movies that I don't have space for, and it's just taking up more room. And these movies are not like they're okay. They're not like nothing that gets me super excited, and I'm not gonna like buy them all on Blu-ray. It's just I don't know. It's okay. But this movie, Kiss the Girls, it's hard to believe it came out in '87, but it's a thriller. It's a hunt movie essentially for a serial killer. It came out around the time, kind of hot off the heels of Seven, of course, and Silence of the Lambs. This movie is very different than that, though. It is. There's moments where I feel like it tries to go in that direction, but it's kind of its own thing. When I watched this last night, I I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought it was pretty good pace. The pacing was pretty good. It was entertaining. It had some pretty good suspense, um, pretty good story, and it was pretty solid. And then the ending, I did enjoy it, but then I thought, wow, it's like wicked predictable, and I saw it kind of coming, kind of a mile away early on in the film. And again, I have not seen Kiss the Girls. And I haven't seen it in, oh geez, years, probably like 15, 20 years. I saw this movie a couple times when it came out. I remember, and I thought it was okay. I was like in between it being okay and it not being a very good movie. I always thought it was kind of bland and just kind of your standard movie. But I don't know. So it had been years, so I totally forgot this movie, and so I watched it. DVD quality, pretty decent quality. Um, and I have to say it's okay. It didn't drag. It had a pretty good pace. And again, at the end of it, I was like, okay, I dug it. It was pretty solid. And then I had this funny reaction, which happens to me all the time. A couple hours after I saw it, I was thinking of the movie. I was watching it after I had watched it, and I'm like, then I started having all these issues with it. And then today I woke up with all of these issues about this movie. And initially, again, I liked it. I thought it was pretty solid and entertaining. But then I came away from it after watching it. I made it all the way through of wanting to see something in that genre, in the serial killer genre, that is way um, a much more well executed film. So the acting in this film is pretty good. The writing, Ashley Judd, Morgan Freeman, it's pretty solid. It's pretty good. And a lot of the movies that I love, again, I always say movies, all the exploitation movies I love in the '70s and '80s and '60s. There's obviously a thing about them that is incredibly dated about those particular films, particularly around, say, the fashion or the music, even the dialogue, and it's super dated. But I always feel like with those movies, 99% of the time, those things, because it's dated, makes the movie cool. It ramps up the cool factor, and it's like, oh, this is awesome. And I think this is an example, Kiss the Girls, of where it's one. I mean, it came out in '97, but it just feels so '90s, and it obviously is a '90s movie. And it's super dated because of that, and I think it doesn't really work. Meaning that I feel like with so many of these movies, again, I watched all kinds of all of these movies, growing up, and I was in high school when a lot of these movies came out, and then also, I'm being in college, so there was, that was a huge decade for like bigger budget kind of Hollywood films. And I loved a lot of those movies at the time, but I have a hard time watching a lot of those movies now that feel because I feel like they're kind of dated, but for all the wrong reasons. Like they just don't hold up. And there was like this narrative that prevailed, I feel like, in 90s movies of where, especially Hollywood movies, of where everything that kind of happens in the story, in the actual writing or the narrative. And I definitely feel like this exemplifies that. Kiss the Girls really exemplifies this kind of idea. But I think all of the movies in the 90s really had this, movies like this that had an obviously, at that time, a real big production value. They were big Hollywood movies. They had big, big stars in them. But they all follow this kind of like telegraphed um, kind of blueprint. They all have this, the bells and whistles of a big budget, but it feels like everything from the writing to the actual acting, the direction, the score, the musical scores, which is a big thing. Everything is so telegraphed. Like you can see it coming from a mile away. And and I kind of feel like maybe studios were doing that because they felt like people, the general audience, could not really make up their own minds, so they were intended on creating this formula of where everything is really telegraphed and you could almost sit there with your eyes closed or half asleep and know exactly what's going to happen. And I kind of felt, and I think it's happening now too, but I kind of feel maybe Hollywood at that time, especially at that time, really perceived people to be really dumb and had no attention span. I think it's a big thing now, but that's the thing that I found. Again, I thought the pacing was pretty good. There was some good suspense, but it has this like everything is a little bit overly dramatic. And this movie is not a fantasy movie. It's about a serial killer. It's based on a book I believe that came out years before that, which I hadn't read. I have not read. But it just feels like everything is kind of telegraphed, and that there isn't room for you to kind of think about, oh, that's going to happen. Oh, I'm really surprised by that. It fits this real straight and narrow, narrative. When I think of another serial killer, one of the greatest serial killer movies of all time, Silence of the Lambs, for instance, it is a product of the same kind of time period, but the writing is so great, and it leaves a little bit of space. It's not, it doesn't fall into this completely predictable dilemma, and there's a little bit of room to interpret what's happening and to kind of sit with things and to kind of make up your own mind and not having these tropes and having your hand, you know, led into each scene or to where the narrative or the structure of this story is going to go. When you're working your way through film, act one, act two, act three, it doesn't do that. Um, it doesn't treat the people who are watching the film or the audience. It doesn't assume that people that are going to be watching it are total dumbasses. And the thing that, again, I thought it was pretty solid, but the thing that happened, and again, I totally forgot this movie. Totally forgot it. So it was like literally like watching it for the first time. There were certain things that happened in the movie where I did remember because I did see it a few times when it came out. Um, but the ending for this film is so like ridiculous. The more I think about it, the more it kind of almost makes me angry because it's so telegraphed. The whole kind of plot reveal around the story is that it's essentially you find out that there's actually two serial killers who are conspiring together, and you find that out. It's kind of revealed by the third act or so, and they're kind of going into that more and more. But then when they show who the that killer is, that second party, it's so telegraphed and it's so like so safe, and it literally could be the ending to a billion other movies that we've seen over the years. As far as that, catch, we got you kind of ending. We gotta, assume that you're not incredibly smart, and we gotta tie it all together in this neat little box. And we'll try to make it exciting. We'll try to add this area of suspense. Maybe the shocking conclusion, have this like shocking conclusion, but it's a template. It's very forced. It's very, it's so preconceived, and it's not. And it's so transparent. It's so formulaic. Yeah. And again, I like. It's funny because I thought it was entertaining when I watched it, and I started thinking about it afterwards, and I'm like, wow, that ending was terrible. Like I literally, there's a scene in the film where they show the guy who is a character in the film, who is kind of involved with the story and all of these things quite a bit. And there's a scene of where he is, where they show him. There's a scene of where they show him kind of looking at the camera, and he gives this kind of little nod or look in this particular scene, and then the camera holds on him for an extra minute, and you're like, oh, this guy's the killer. Like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like, it was so obvious and so utterly ridiculous that it was like a 2-year-old would know that, and it was like, oh my god. So I don't know. Yeah, and again, at the time, I kind of thought it was entertaining, but coming away from it, I'm like, it's literally like having your hand held to go to your first day of school. It's kind of what this movie is. Thinking of, say, a serial killer movie, which I just saw, Long Legs, Nicolas Cage. That movie was interesting. I thought it went into some very different areas. I didn't expect it. It had a high level of suspense, and it really, there were things about it that I was really surprised, if not shocked, and did not see coming. And it blends, a few different genres together. It's unique, but I feel like that movie takes a chance. It does take a chance. Some people don't like that movie. Some people really like it. I'm one of the people that actually really liked it. But it takes a chance. It's got its own kind of independent thought around it, and this doesn't. It's just like straight down the middle, straight vanilla. Middle America. It's a serial killer made for the straight and narrow middle America base. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really recommend it. I don't think it holds up very well. But anyway, we will see you next time. Peace.